The Biden administration has quietly expanded its policies regarding transgenders in the military. The Center for Military Readiness raised the alarm. Joining us now to discuss, Ambassador for America First Policy Institute, Newsmax contributor, and retired Gunnery Sergeant in the U.S. Marine Corps, Jessie Jane Duff. Jessie, we've talked about this topic a little bit. Feel free to expand upon it for where we are now, because we've seen some things over time, and most recently we've seen, oh, the COVID thing. By the way, maybe we didn't need a COVID shot, and yet they got rid of Marines. I think you said yesterday something like 8,000. And let me throw something in when we were talking about this before. I did talk to a retired colonel in D.C. who had mentioned that one of the problems they're having with recruiting is also there's a high employment level now. So people are not necessarily looking at the military as a place for a career. I wanted to see whether that factors in at all in your mind.
Well, okay, so there's a lot of factors that go into recruiting. Number one, probably less than 20% of our youth are even qualified to join the military.
Yeah, that's so true.
Out of that, maybe only 5% even know somebody who's served in the military. Less than 1% of this country serves in the military. It's a very niche group because, one, there's massive health problems that can prevent people from joining, educational problems, obesity. There's a litany of issues that will disqualify you, drug use, performance records with the law. So here we are now talking about transgenders going into the military, which basically that has been identified as gender dysphoria and a mental health issue. And we're allowing them to enlist, receive surgery, and now they're no longer deployable while they recover from that. And now our military is grading their officers and senior level enlisted on if they're using their pronouns correctly. I've gathered that in the Army senior level ranks, their staff academies and officer academies are training their officers to do this. If they do it incorrectly, it can impact their performance evaluations. What a waste of time. This has nothing to do with military readiness. The United States military is probably one of the most discriminatory organizations around based upon not everybody has a right to serve. You have to be qualified to serve. Too tall, too short, too fat, too thin. There's a litany of reasons, but yet this is one group that is being given special consideration so that they can have basically a political standing with the Democrat population. And honestly, they are reforming the Pentagon so that they're less focused on military readiness, and which we've seen with the Heritage Foundation's report that all of the branches of service are barely capable of sustaining one combat zone, let alone two at the same time. So we are now sitting here scratching our heads. What happened to ensuring that we were able to go over and overwhelm the enemy? Instead, we're grading our officers and senior enlisted on how they use their pronouns. It's absurd.
Jessie Jane, how dangerous is it that all of this is happening now as we're, of course, very much under the watchful eye of China, Russia, Iran, and, of course, Kim Jong-un?
It's exceptionally dangerous. The number one fear right now of the Americans is that China will overtake Taiwan and suck us into some type of combatant zone. We're looking at being on the verge of World War III with the Ukraine because we have dabbled our foot into not getting that situation resolved through any form of diplomacy. We are sitting here now on the edge of multiple combatant fronts, not to mention where the hundreds and thousands of military personnel are already deployed overseas. I guarantee the Russians in their recruiting ads, if you've seen them, and I have, do not include any gender or racial or other type of issues other than fear us, we will kill you. And basically, the Chinese, I'm sure, are on the same platform. Our focus has lost what its priority is. If you want a civilian job in DOD, maybe this is relevant, which should have different policies than that of the military. But you do not have a right to serve in the military. You have to be eligible to serve in the U.S. military. And now the transgender issue has overtaken something that should have no impact. Donald Trump, I must clarify, did allow transgenders to join. It is a lie that he didn't. However, they had already had to have the surgery so that they could be deployable, and they had to live in that gender already 5 years. The new policies now are causing people to scratch their heads and wonder, why would they serve? We talked about COVID yesterday. 8,100 military personnel were discharged because they refused the vaccine. 3,700 United States Marines, the people that are first on the ground, the first to fight, were discharged because they did not have a COVID vaccine. All of these political persuasions that the Pentagon is pushing upon the population are obviously having an impact. It's not just we have a robust economy. Those who want to serve and love this country don't like the politics of the Pentagon. And I dare to say, when we withdrew from Afghanistan, that was such a slap in the face to all Americans that we could not prevent the loss of life. We had been there 20 years, and you cannot ensure a safe transition as we withdraw. I dare to say it's not the economy. It is based upon the Pentagon's inability to use common sense approach, ensuring that we are able to overwhelm and attack an enemy. They're too preoccupied with political correctness.
Yeah, let's talk about when you are in theater or out, you're deployed. When you look to your left or your right, are you seeing color? Are you seeing gender? Or are you seeing somebody that has merited being with you?
You know, when I was on active duty, we didn't have half of the problems that are going on right now. The biggest issue back then was removing the don't ask, don't tell policy, which in fact I fully supported. Why? Because people who were homosexual were already serving on active duty. And honestly, most of us didn't care. It did not impact military readiness. This is not a gay or lesbian issue. This is a medical issue. This is now reforming the entire population. Race, gender, all we cared about was, can you fire a weapon? Because in the United States Marine Corps, every Marine, male and female, is a rifleman. If you're incapable of shooting and running, because that's your endurance levels that you must have when you're in a combat zone, then you're qualified. And we also look at your test scores and ensure that you have the mental capacity. There's a big arena of skill sets that are looked at to recruit people. And honestly, the most diverse organization in the world is the United States military. And diversity is not our strength. Capability is our strength. And that's what made the military so powerful. They took people from groups that had long been rejected, and they brought them in together because they knew as a force of one, we could defeat our enemies. We look back at the Tuskegee Airmen. We look back at the Amman 4-Point Marines, which were the first African-American Marines. We realized that your quality of your performance is all that matters. But you cannot join saying, I now need gastric bypass surgery, I need heart surgery, I need major surgeries, but yet transgenders have been able to manipulate this system now that they're on continual hormonal therapy. We know there's a higher suicide rate. We know it's identified as gender dysphoria. Be it all of the other medical issues are now cast aside. We are not a medical services organization. We are there for one purpose, to overwhelm and destroy the enemy. That's it.
Yeah. All right. Jessie Jane Duff, always admire your passion and your insight. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you.
Can she be our Secretary of Defense?
I was going to say, we have some ideas. Yeah, she's great.
When we're in charge?
Yeah, when we're in charge.